Here.
Mr. Kirkland. Here. Mr. Bishop. Here. Mr. Pope.
Here.
Mr. Webb. Here. All present, Judge.
Thank you, Chad. I'd like to wish Mr. Chad Manley, our clerk, a happy birthday today.
Happy birthday, Chad.
Birthday.
29 home.
29 at home.
No, I'll take her one of my kids. I don't want to back up.
There you go.
Ask her where I'm at.
There you go. I would like to take a moment of silence for some community members, Mr. Elijah Coyle, Jordan Mattingly, and Mr. George Brady. Thank you all very much. We're going to kind of jump around tonight. We've got a Mr. What's his name here? Genic Solar.
Give me just a minute.
Doug Schulte. Go ahead.
I have to add him in my contacts. It won't let me just connect, so give me just a second.
We've got Mr. Doug Schulte with Genic Solar to give a presentation on the solar panel opportunities in Marion County and what it could mean to the people of Marion County, and kind of just a background on the company itself. You want to see if you all have any questions on it. I know they've had a few meetings in the library. I've talked to him on a couple of occasions, and he's just wanting to just basically tell what's going on with the solar panel project in Marion County. So you got him dialed in yet?
I didn't know he was going to be first.
Yeah, we could go ahead and do, first item on the agenda is consider approval of minutes of the previous meeting held Thursday, May 21st, 2020.
Motion to approve. Second. Mr. Webb. Yes. Mr. Bishop. Yes. Mr. Blackman.
Yes.
Mr. Kirkland. Yes. Mr. Pope.
Yeah.
Item numbers, when you get them in, just let me know. Jump to it. Item number 2 is consider approval to increase the rate charge for Washington County inmates that are in ISO to $2.02 per inmate at the Marion County Detention Center. Mary, you want to comment on that or anything?
No, I mean, we just did the contracted cost from 2019. So with that, anything that we're doing with isolation, which takes a little bit more labor, we've added $2 to the contract. Just for those period of days that they're in there.
Perfect.
Motion to accept. Mr. Bishop. Yes. Mr. Pope. Yes. Mr. Webb. Yes. Mr. Blackman.
Yes.
Oh, that's my fault. That's my fault.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, there.
That's just
That was a typo. I did that. Even after we. Talked about it. Kara, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me and see me?
We can hear you, but I can't see you.
Okay. Well, that might be best. Is Doug connected?
No.
Okay. Well, if you're having trouble with him, I'm welcome. I want to be cognizant of your time, so I'm welcome to begin if you want me to.
Wonder if I should. It says waiting on his end, so. G for Genic.
If they're ready for me to, I mean, I could certainly start, and if Doug joins in, he can.
That's fine. We've kind of already started the presentation. Basically, I guess you can just say what company you're with and kind of what you're presenting would be great.
Sure. My name is Kayra Price, and I'm Senior VP of Permitting and Development for Genic Solar. And appreciate very much your time today, Judge Doherty and Magistrates. We know this is kind of a weird way to introduce a project, but this project's on a timeline that we felt it was important to get it in front of you because it will start to become more public, and there may be questions you have, and so we thought we'd get this initial presentation done and then come back later when we can sit down in front of you and review the site plan and more details. But Genic Solar is a utility-scale solar developer based out of Charlotte, North Carolina. We've been developing projects since around 2012, and as I said, these are all large-scale utility projects that directly connect to the transmission interconnection grid. We were kind of founded on the basis of not only wanting to bring solar into the communities, but also ensure there's something left behind in these communities. That's why it's very important for us to engage with you at this time. Education, workforce development opportunities, those are all the things that once we develop a project and it's energized and it's delivering clean energy to the grid, that there's something left behind. Some of you may have heard already of the Center for Energy and Education, who has already hosted some events there, has actually reached out to teachers and students to try to get them engaged in their programs. The center is a nonprofit that Genic founded when our company came about. It was this idea to have this Center for Energy Education that has a 5,000 square foot building sitting in Roanoke Rapids, North Carolina, next to a large project there. But all the programs that the center puts together can be designed to come out to the communities. And I know we will be coming into Marion County this summer, actually, with virtual summer camps. These are free camps to children who can learn about renewable energy, get hands-on. They'll actually get kits mailed to them that they can create things that run on solar. A lot of really great hands-on opportunities there. Teachers are also trained about renewable energy. We bring them in for special programs. They learn how to take that information back to their classroom. And at the same time, they're also given kits that can teach kids how wind energy works, how solar energy works, and how we can utilize the resources around us to generate energy. So quickly, I know we're kind of short on time, and you got all that information in front of you, and you can certainly do more research on us. But one get into a little bit more about why we're here in Marion County and wanting to engage with you. This time. Obviously, utility scale solar is becoming a very important subject of conversation across the country. And why are we here, in Kentucky at this time? We started in North Carolina, which is now the #2 state in the country for installed solar capacity. And considering the size of North Carolina against #1 in the country, which is California, that's pretty amazing. But it's because North Carolina had some renewable energy mandates in place to kind of spear that development on. In addition, they have some of the same thing that Kentucky has, and it's why developers like us are coming to Kentucky now. What you've got is the demand from the corporations like the Facebook, the Googles, the Amazons of the world, who are saying, okay, we are large institutions that require a lot of of energy. We want to ensure our energy source is coming from renewables. You also have the cost of solar that decreases on a yearly basis. It's very competitive now against traditional fossil fuel sources. Kentucky has a great location as well, like North Carolina. You've got a lot of land with good topography. And you've got the solar resource here that's good, and you're in a location that gives us access to high energy demands. You'll hear us talk about PJM. PJM is a regional transmission operator group that runs, I think it encompasses about 14 states that come from the top of North Carolina through Virginia, Kentucky, Ohio, Indiana, and up to the northeast part of the country. It's one of the largest energy marketplaces in the world, and Kentucky allows us access to that. I've mentioned the land that Kentucky has. You've got existing transmission and distribution lines with a lot of land next to it that we can utilize to connect to and put this energy on the grid. And you've also got willing landowners. You have landowners, for whatever reason, are looking for additional sources of income. They may have been traditional farmers in the past, maybe they're not generating enough, or maybe they have land they're not farming now, and they're interested in pursuing that for solar. It's important to understand when we look at these projects too, that all these things kind of come together. We can't just take any land and make it a solar project. It does have to have all those elements of good topography, no environmental issues, no wetland issues, and it's got to have that existing transmission infrastructure that's got the capacity to take the energy. A lot can be found out about solar in regards to its health and safety aspects. So this slide, you've got information here just at a high level, but we can certainly provide a more detailed level if people have questions. Solar's been in use for over 50 years. NASA was one of the first companies to put solar in place. There's no emissions, there's no contamination, there's no noise outside of the fence line. A lot of people are concerned about glare from a solar project, which is really interesting. We drive by them a lot here in North Carolina, so we see it. They actually look more purple or really, really deep blue when you drive by them because they're designed to absorb as much light as possible. So there's not a lot of glare. And also the projects, and all the equipment that's used on this, most of it can be recycled at the end of its life. And I think that's one of the biggest things we like to talk about with the solar is there's not many land uses like this where you can actually return the land to its original agricultural use after it's like as a solar farm. All of this equipment can be removed. There's no cement holding it in place. And so solar is a great placeholder for the future, 35, 40 years down the road. As technology changes and other sources, we may not need as much land, and it can actually go back to another use. Some of these additional slides, like I said, I'll be cognizant of your time, so this is a tough way to be presenting this in front of you. There's a little more detail about why farmers decide that they would like to put some of their land in solar. We have a lot of great testimonials from the farmers. A lot of times they're using their solar income that they're going to receive for the next 35 to 40 years, which, by the way, these are long-term leases that we usually enter into with the landowner. So their family still has control over that land for this time, and they're getting that income. So a lot of times it's some of their land is being used so they can keep farming on their other land. There's also a lot of studies that have been done now in regards to the impact of these facilities on the surrounding community. Are there impacts on property values in addition to health and safety? And we actually have a lot of data points from home sales before a solar farm was built and after that shows they really have no impact. They're quiet neighbors, very passive land use compared to a lot of other things. Another thing that I mentioned slightly is how this project can actually be decommissioning planned, which is is that process of how we take this site down and take it away at the end of its life. That is in each landowner's agreement that we enter into. And the project is responsible for returning that land to its original form before the project was there. And there's a guideline set in place so we can actually provide more detail on that. I don't think Doug, I assume you're still not there? Doug was going to share a little more insights about northern bobwhite, but he may have had some technology issues that required him not to be able to chime in. But our project that's in Marion County is called Northern Bobwhite Solar. We kind of have this strange way of defining states by different things. Kentucky happens to be birds. We develop in Ohio, it's ground mammals. So in case you're wondering how Northern Bobwhite Solar came about. A little bit about the project itself. This is what we call a 96 megawatt project in regards to its size and scope. To give you an idea of megawatts, usually a megawatt can power about 250 homes. So a project of this scope may power an average of 24,000 households, to give you an idea. You can see the acreage numbers in there, and those are our starting acreage numbers. We always contract for more land than we're going to actually use for the project because we have to have intensive studies done, wetlands delineations done, cultural analysis done, and because of that, there may end up being parts of the land that we cannot utilize for the project. We just had a final wetlands determination done on this site, and we know already that we're going to be on the much lower end of that number in regards to the land we're going to be utilizing. We'll also mention the idea here of industrial revenue bonds. You know, some counties are familiar with these for different projects. I believe Marion had actually done industrial revenue bonds for Maker's Mark Distillery, I believe. But now solar has been listed as one of the industries that the state is trying to incentivize to come into regions and is allowed to utilize industrial revenue bonds as well. So eventually we'll be coming back to talk in more detail about that. You can also see that map to give you an idea where the project is in relation to the town of Lebanon. It's straight north, several miles outside the town. Next time we come and visit with you, we look to be able to sit down and actually show you a much more detailed site plan, and we can share then the vegetative screening that we're going to provide on the project, the setbacks that we're offering to neighboring landowners, and those type of more detailed. Land control is pretty much at the end of its cycle of being secured at this time, which is why we wanted to go ahead and come forward, because when that is secured, there's a lot of other things that start getting put in place, and one of those includes the Kentucky State Siting Permit process, which is a very long process, can take up to 10 months. And because of all those elements, we need to get that moving to stay on our development timeline. And there's Doug, was able to join. Doug, I was in the middle of talking about the project itself, and talking about the timelines that we're going into. If you want to jump in from here and talk about the design and go and finish up with community benefits, that would be lovely.
What were you up to?
I'm literally at the development slide 15. Talked about a little bit about where the project is and where it is in its development life cycle.
Okay. And I will pick it up, except my computer is frozen. There we go. There we go. Okay. So you've just finished mid-stage development then?
Yeah, pretty much. And I've also let them know that when we come back next time and have the project in a more defined format in regards to the site plan, we can show them more detail about the setbacks and the buffering and the that we will be incorporating into the design.
Okay. Okay. The next slide then talks about benefits to the community. The biggest benefits are the financial benefits the county will see. The workforce development. We hire local people as much as possible. We will have, during the construction period, 12 to 16 months, you can expect to see 100 to 150 local hires, which gives you tax revenue and things like that from the employment taxes. Local contractors will be utilized for equipment rental, fencing, site work, anything that can be done with local contractors. We make an effort to use local contractors as much as possible. Permanent positions, the facility itself does not hire many direct permanent employees. We have landscaping and groundskeeping is contracted out locally, so you will see people engaged for that purpose by whatever contractor is successful in bidding for that work. It could even be some of the landowners involved with the project. There are also local workforce development programs through the Center for Energy Education that I think Kayla's already talked about in our community involvement. We do training programs through the colleges and other workforce organizations, and the people are able to get the education they need and a certificate of registration so that they're qualified to work on solar farms. And that's something that we provide on a regular basis. We're actually doing training programs, working with the schools and other education work later this summer. The economic and educational work, you'll see increased business for local restaurants, supply stores, gas stations, accommodations, and other work during construction. This solar farm becomes, I don't want to say a tourist attraction, but it does become an opportunity for people that are in renewable energy and in locating businesses in places where it's of interest to the community, to their activities. They view the solar energy being as an indication of the county's support for renewable energy and a place that they would then want to do business and be associated with. So it can become a business development attraction for the county. Issuance of industrial revenue bonds to finance the cost of the solar facilities promotes growth in renewable energy and provides incentives for the project while promoting economic development opportunities for the county. We also would include in that payments in lieu of taxes, which I think is rather common with the IRB process. We also provide, by the fact that the solar farm is there, a resource for educational opportunities for local students and teachers. The Center for Energy Education is continuing to include area teachers and students in summer camps. We are currently issuing bulletins and things like that for a summer STEM program that is being taught this summer. So we'll participate in that fashion. Did I miss anything, Kayla?
Nope, I think that's it. I think the most important thing was to go ahead and share this initial information with the county. So if you start to get questions, you know who to contact, you have some general information, and just know what to expect when we come back and formulate your own questions for the next time that we can meet with you and provide more detail on the project.
Does anybody have any
Over
questions?
the site location, correct?
Yes, I did. If you want to give any more, I couldn't remember exactly how many miles outside of Lebanon it was.
Well, all of the magistrates and the fiscal court members will recognize it's sort of centered around Radio Station Road and the large substations that are located there. That will be our point of interconnection to the transmission grid. So the land generally to the east surrounding that those two substations and a strip sort of north and south centered on those substations is the area where the project is located.
Are you all looking for more ground? How do you all lease that?
I guess what
So many years?
I don't think he can hear you.
how do you all lease that ground? Do you all lease it for so many years, and by the acre or by the solar panel?
We negotiate a lease agreement with the individual landowners. The land is leased by the acre, up to 40 years. There's an initial period of 20 years, and then there are 4 5-year optional periods at the option of the solar company after that. So an initial period of 20 years and another optional period of another 20 years that's broken up into 4 segments.
Where are your summer camps held, and is there a charge to attend that?
This year, the summer camps are actually being held virtually because of the situation we're all dealing with. And there is no charge for the summer camps. The Center for Energy Education is a nonprofit, and developers like Genic help fund its programs so that we can bring them into the communities at no charge. I can actually provide and send an email about the flyer for exactly what time that those virtual camps will be happening this summer for your county.
Okay, thank you.
Those flyers are actually in the process of being distributed around the county now, and I think we're going to advertise them in the local newspaper.
Okay.
Are industrial revenue bonds or is it a mandate that that's what you have to do to be able to do this project, or is that what you're depending on, or?
The industrial revenue bonds provide an incentive for us that is I don't want to say they're mandatory, but they're going to be very significant to the ability to develop an economic project. It is something that the state has recently revised legislation to expand the coverage for IRBs to the solar renewable energy facilities in an effort to try and incentivize solar energy development in the state. So we would be working with you, or hopefully working with you in the future to put that in place.
On this, you said you were wanting maybe some extra land. We don't know how much land, but if you did, would it likely be located in the same general area so you could hook to the same grid, or is it, in case people ask, is it out in other parts of the county, or where would it most likely that you would want it to be?
I think it would be in the same general area.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. Just so people might ask, that way somebody way on the other side of the county has an interest, they would probably be out in the wrong location.
And Doug, and I think the one thing we didn't mention too, as part of the state siting permit process, it involves a lot of community engagement. So once we have the site plan finalized and we've shared it with the county officials, we will be later in the summer hosting a series of community events whereby we share information about the project with the neighboring landowners and the general community so that they can ask us questions and be aware of the development.
What happens if the landowner wants to sell his land?
If the landowner wants to sell his land while he's got it leased to us, the lease goes with the land. So
if he dies, he does too?
they're able to please sell the land, or if they pass away, somebody else inherit the land, and they are whoever acquires the land, either from purchasing or inheriting, gets the benefits of the lease agreement on the property.
So could that devalue the property?
I don't think he heard you.
Could that devalue the amount of the property like that? The contract already on it?
I'm sorry.
He wants to know if that would devalue the property with an existing contract on it.
Actually, the expectation would be that the property property value, I guess, I can't really promise this, but I would expect the property value would increase. If you think about it, you've got somebody who's out there farming an area of property. State agricultural information would tell you that they're probably making an average of about $300 a year per acre off of that property. If they're now collecting rent that's significantly more than that, and that rent is not subject to weather conditions, commodity market changes, all of those kind of issues, then the security of that revenue stream, as well as being above what they would make farming, is much less risky. So their the value of their property, or what somebody would be willing to pay for something with a secure revenue stream for 20 to 40 years, would probably be an increase.
You said that you could actually also do a ordinance regarding solar farms, and you mentioned Harrison County to me earlier a couple of weeks ago about that. Is that something that we would have to present to you?
We would be happy to work with you to put together an ordinance if you want to do that. My understanding is there's not one required, because you don't have zoning out in that area of the county. But I think the judge indicated to me that there were some things that they might want to do in an ordinance that would then be for the purposes of sort of protecting the interests of the county and things like that. We'd be happy to work with you and help you make any comments or whatever suggestions to help put such an ordinance together and give you the benefit of our experience. I mean, I'm assuming it's something that you want to do to secure the interests of the county. At the same time, you don't want to do something that's going to be a deterrent to companies trying to develop projects in the county. And we'd be happy to work with you to help make that happen.
Is there any revenue the county would generate after electricity is produced?
The county would see increased revenue, increased tax revenue on the land being leased, because the land is no longer seen as agricultural land. It would be taxed at a commercial or full tax rate, depending on what the determinations are. There are also, even with the IRBs, I think there's increased taxes that we would pay, or some taxes that we would pay for the assets that we install on the property. And some of that, I'm not an expert on the tax process, but I know some of that goes to the county or to the state. A portion comes back to the county. Other stuff is taxed directly by the county. So we'd have to sort out what the cash flow position of the county would be in that regard. But yes, there are definite benefits back to the county throughout the life of the project.
Yeah, but you're talking about IRBs and stuff, but where's there any jobs created out of this? You say you have no full-time people.
We've got almost, the projects that we put in are operated remotely or monitored remotely. And when we see things that occur that require work, then there's a maintenance crew come in, and typically that's contracted with people in the area. So while we don't directly hire people for the solar farm, there are people that are hired in the support industries that are needed to work on the solar farm, that create a labor force within the county that the county sees benefit from.
Yeah, as an example, example, solar is fairly new to Kentucky. And in North Carolina, when the solar industry began, there were the same questions about long-term. Is there really long-term jobs in this industry? People go to work and but now we've seen that happen because solar development continues to happen in North Carolina. There's still projects being built. We have community colleges here in the state that have entire curriculum now to teach people how to work on a solar project. We've had interns on some of our projects who go on to get hired by the utility companies and be the operations and maintenance people, and they oversee 5 or 6 projects. So a lot of times, like you've got the project that we're working on, after its 18-month construction process ends, those same people can go, to another project in a neighboring county for a period of time and utilize those same skills. A lot of times here we find that the underemployed are someone who find opportunities with solar. They're the plumbers, the electricians who may not be working a full 40 hours a week, who find a solar facility coming in gives them a steady additional income for a long period of time during its construction process as well.
Anybody else have any more questions? Doug will review these, this presentation, and if we have any more questions, we'll let you come back and answer those questions, if that's okay.
We look forward to it. Hopefully in the future we can come and make a face-to-face presentation and not have to try and deal with the virus imposed technical separations.
And we hope sooner than later, that's for sure. We're tired of this ourselves, so we appreciate you presenting it to us and giving us an overview of what you're trying to do. And again, we'll get some questions together and try to get you in here on a face-to-face meeting.
Great.
We look forward to it.
Yeah, thank you all very much for your time. Appreciate it. Stay well.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right, so if y'all want to review those notes that he's given us in the presentation, if you got questions, I've got Doug's number. Again, it is an opportunity for some folks in the county that if they're interested in maybe leasing the property to these folks, it could be some revenue opportunity for them. So again, if you were one of the landowners that was interested in doing it, I'm sure you'd be concerned on how it's going to work. So hopefully we can help protect them if they do decide to do it. Lisa, you got any comments on that? All right, the next item on the agenda is to inform the court of the result from the surplus property bids. The results are Kelly Manley purchased the 2004 John Deere tractor for $2,800. Mr. Melvin Berry purchased the road tractor for $425. Mr. Charlie Browning purchased all fencing materials for $5,315. The total price was $8,540. You make any questions?
And the wheels on the ambulance, so
We'll just probably just take it to the Jackies, get what we can get out of it. Hopefully it scraps up. What's this scrap now?
Take the bookmobile too.
Could
They-
take the bookmobile too.
I talked to Amy last week and she has sold it. She's just waiting for the ability to transfer it and all of that jazz. So it will be gone eventually. The bookmobile, yeah.
I thought it might make it with the Rob, you need a bookmobile?
Education.
All right.
Need a motion to accept. I think you did the last time, we just said that you're going to the
Next item, consider approval of budget transfer. That's what, there is none, that's good, that's why I don't have the amounts. Number 5, is an allowable AOC reimbursable expense. You know, last year we had a ton of issues with the humidity in the building of the judicial center. So we've got a company over there that came in the very first day and discovered that one of the belts, one of the main belts on the entire system was not on, wasn't even there. So I think they found 3 or 4 other issues. So hopefully they're going to be able to keep. Last year we had to get in there and put the fans in there and do a lot of different stuff. So I think this company is really doing a good job. So like I said, they've already found one of the issues. The total price on that repair is $1,630.
Motion to approve. Yes.
Mr. Quill? Yes. Mr. Bowman?
Yes.
Ms. Blackman?
Yes.
Mr. Bishop?
Yes.
Unanimous.
All right, department reports. Jimmy?
Been doing a lot of trees, moving trees out beside the road, doing ditches in some of y'all's areas. Livers Lane, we put that box covered in, put a tile in for it. And, I talked to the guys about the coal mix, about the middle of July, we plan on making some.
Are you out now?
I got just a little bit. You needed some somewhere?
No, I thought emergency.
Yeah, I've got about 20 ton left. Yeah. But unless y'all got something, everything else, I think
Looks good, Jimmy. Appreciate it.
all the gravel roads, I think, is in decent shape, unless y'all know of any.
You get a chance to ride the highway and check out, you can finally see the road down there.
Yeah, if y'all go through Highview a lot, it'll change.
That's my scenic route. What you do to it?
It'll be the same thing when you go back through there.
That's my Sunday morning motorcycle ride.
It looks different out there.
It does.
There's more sunshine on you now.
All right.
Thank y'all.
Keith's got a report. Let's see anything there. How they went there. Barry?
Well, I had talked with the Secretary of Justice and the new Commissioner of Corrections, and it is evident that there is nothing going to happen on the program per diem this year, even with all of the evidence that statewide, all of the programs and all the counties that are offering programs are struggling with money to make ends meet with it. The Secretary of Justice did announce that they would support us, local government, the judges, magistrates, and jailers to approach the legislation in their 2021 bid to do performance-based, and that everybody agrees that it's needed, but it seems that nobody can find the money to help us and offset that. I mean, it's frustrating, to say the least, because, I mean, I've demonstrated on several presentations to you all, as well as state legislators, that we have prison operations, and the cost of incarceration has went up. I mean, it went up. And then when you add the factor that the state has went 15 years with no adjustment, the only one negligent, the only one kicking the can down the road is state government. And so it's frustrating, but we hit a closed door, a roadblock, so it's not happening until we get into the 2021 session. So I will be most definitely fueling you with information and hoping that we can talk with our legislators. I've already talked with Senator Higgins, but again, guys, this is something that hopefully this thing will startle enough government employees, government officials, judges and magistrates, along with the jailers in the 2021 session to get something done.
Just maybe let's start go through the whole process again.
Well, I know that the state has been mandated under the 2020 session. They were mandated to have a plan by July the 1st, and they are working on a plan for performance-based funding for jail operations. So I haven't seen that plan. It was just, it'll go into committees. I'm confident I'll have an opportunity to speak again to legislators between now and January, and plan on being there and doing so. So still fighting the fight. Get tough here.
Everything's still on lockdown down there, Barry.
Yeah, the state issued a letter this week that we could request, we would have to submit a plan, which we've already put together a plan for some community service type activity, work details for inmates. We had to have a full inclusive plan. Again, I've always said Marion County has the setup for that, but it's gonna be, even at that, it cannot be turned over to the shelter or to the road department. It has to be correctional supervised. It was likely, that's all it will be correctional supervised. And even on those jobs, we would have to outline exactly what type of duties, what they would be, where they'd be at, what part of the county, what access to public. There is still a real,
Back the garbage truck?
I mean, they're not.
Can't you get on back?
Oh, I could.
Maybe supervisors.
I could. It's going to be, it's going to be a long road. It's not to say that it won't happen this year, that we'll see community service out again, but I look for those jobs to be very selective. We could possibly make a bid to do mowing and possibly do a bid for selecting some roadside pickup. Not sure either one of them would get approved, but they're more likely to be able to control the workforce and ensure their access to the public is
Your
limited.
guys go with them.
Yeah. So, as far as, they was very clear in the memo to say that, if it was uncorrectional supervised, it would not be approved. And I think a lot of this, Judge, was the meeting that the judge executives had with the Secretary of Justice on the 29th. So there's still not a lot of give. There's a whole lot of concern, again, with the physical plant, the makeup of these prisons and jails, with these dormitory style housings, that once you have exposure to the virus, it's first literally almost uncontrollable. So that's why there's standoffish on it. So it'll probably be a minute on that as well. All good. Everything's going on all right. We did have one little incident yesterday where our ruling is a statewide ruling. There's no movement of prisoners between correctional facilities, and that they put the notice out that if we had law enforcement on a local level to make arrests with out-of-county warrants, that agency would drive them to that county and do the arrest, because it limits the inmate having access to the courts, as well as, they're just stuck in your county. And so there was a local law enforcement made an arrest. An individual was in a vehicle at the Walmart area, made an arrest of him with some out-of-county warrants, brought him to the jail. We refused him. They drove him out, cited him, and he went down to Phillips Repair, stole a zero-turn lawnmower, and headed up the street with it. So, I talked to Steve Laurie. I said, "Look here, that's one of them got handed back to us. If there was karma, we got it handed back." But anyway, so we've got him tucked away for court now. So he's all ours.
You get to hold the lawnmower for evidence. And
I asked Donnie Phillips if it could be purchased as used equipment, because it left the lot. But anyway, so that's just the curve to go with it. Always something.
He really wouldn't be in your jail, did he?
Evidently. Of course, he lost his ride. He didn't have his ride out of the county, so the lawnmower, must have keys in them. But if they don't know. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Larry. Robbie?
For the month of May, we funded actually $214 for the year, and a total of $4,053. I'm happy to had an interview with the gentleman, for our full-time attorney. And, I'd like to hire him for that position we had advertised. His name is Genic Solar.
See, he's already passed on your,
I've already done a background check and checked with the state on the third check. He's currently working at, Middletown Bank, fire EMS support. Within the town.
motion to approve. Alright.
Second.
Mr. Quill?
Yes.
Ms. Blackman?
Yes.
Mr. Vogel?
Yes.
Mr. Kirkland?
Yes.
Mr. Bishop? Yes. Unanimous.
Other than I've had for a while. So, this is 103.
So what the temperature is, we have 103 or 5, what is it?
112. So, I got used to have allergy issues, and when their allergies act up, they run a little bit of a fever, and it is been healthy. But investigate.
She thinks she comes about every day. I think everything's going fine. The only thing she didn't want to do is do an update on the code red. We've had 928 residential sign-ups and 41 businesses. 85 were signed up in the month of May, one new business. So, we're getting up there around 1,000 people, which is really good, but we've got 19 more thousand to go. So when all this code red's over, when all this COVID's over, we're gonna try to do some more advertising and try to get more people signed up for this. It's an easy thing to do, so again, that's just an update on that.
On that note, I suggest she may look into some bigger signs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Put
I
one
had
little
Ron
sign.
take a picture of it the other day, and then take
Can't
it myself,
you
and
don't,
then-
We realized that issue as soon as we put them out.
Yeah, because, I mean, the one she put up, she called me and asked me to put it in Bremerton. I didn't even notice it until I was weeding in front of it, when I seen the sign. It's small, it's not that visible on the street. It's nothing to catch your attention.
Bigger signs, what we're gonna do. More money.
Less work.
Less work. All right.
Bigger things.
Larry, you said you talked to Kay?
Yeah, she said everything's going well, and they're thinking about, planning on opening up the rental schedule, but, not full blown like that, opens up it for the hours will be short, like 12 to 4, something like that, Monday to Friday. She told me that, I think that's what she said. They'll be on a rental schedule, and not doing everything they did before, but please don't so public. Started back. She also wanted to, do this on that computer, the laptop, that, everything on that.
She got in her budget, I think, that she didn't do.
Yeah, she said it's in her budget. She just wanted to make you aware of it.
Purchase a new laptop, purchase an outhold or something.
Yeah. That's
And
all.
Career Center, Terry was in there today, and basically, unemployment insurance, has been pulled from the local Career Center. And basically, Pat, you know the website for that now? No. But anyway, you can still call up there and give the number, but she can tell you Thursday, and hopefully get some more folks back to work. And, other than that, she said they were really busy. If you ever go up there and see Larry, you can probably work on the phone a little bit. They're probably wore out the phones, I'd say. There's a couple that they ran almost nonstop for the past 3 months. So, we got another gentleman here with Mr. Pat Ford with Economic Development. Pat, would you like to give us, to bring some donuts?
I'm glad I didn't. I think we're down to maybe just 9, and I didn't want to be responsible for passing them out. But there will be more tomorrow, because tomorrow is National Donut Day. Today's just Donut Thursday. Tomorrow's the Donut Day. So please come by, because we'll have fun.
Pat, what's been going on in economic development?
So what's interesting is that, those people who are going to bounce back from this pandemic are people who plan to make it through the pandemic and also have a game plan for bouncing out of the pandemic. And we've been working on our game plan to get us to collaborate with our industries, working with our all of you in business. And we're working on some major strategic investments throughout the county, infrastructure and economic development standpoint. So I just want this board to know that we have not been sitting by idly over the past 2 months. We've been collaborating with our industries. We have a COVID response hub to exchange best practices among all the industries. We're collaborating with the career center to have these drive-through job fairs. And at the same time, we're working on a strategy to get ourselves on the radar post-pandemic, because there's a big move that's starting right now with not only businesses and families, but also what people are planning on doing after COVID with regards to social retreats. So what happens is we're seeing people move out of densely populated areas and move to areas because they don't want to be in areas where something like this could affect them again, even on a second wave. So we've got some people right now, and that's something we're praying for locals to actually move into those areas. And not only that, we want the executives who have offices in those areas want to move outside the area because now they're taking the development. So, people like Marion County could very well benefit from the relocation of this population out of certain areas. And at the same time, we've got businesses that are looking at traveling short distances. And so that's one of the reasons why we decided to make a move to do a market and look at the impacts of multi-use building. Because we want multi-use building to be considered, because if people are moving outside of urban areas, they don't amenities. Multi-use building would be a great amenity, because used to those in urban areas. So there's a couple reasons why we want to evaluate that right now. And a conference center, because people are going to stop flying to the sexy areas, not back to the sexy. Some people think they're sexy, like the Miamis, the Chicagos, and Bostons. They want to start doing the day trips to travel for conventions, and it doesn't work for an ideal city where they're an hour and a half out of big population centers. So I just want the fiscal board to know that there's a reason why we're looking at these options, because we want to position ourselves to come out of this pandemic strong, very strong, because we're taking it right now. I mean, the lifestyle a lot of that is part of our success. A lot of manufacturing jobs. And we've got a pretty high unemployment rate, so we want to make sure that position I appreciate all your support.
That's one reason our unemployment so high, because our employment was peaked out, so we all cut back, and we got a higher unemployment rate, because we just need people working.
And our career center helped about all the Marion County folks. So
She was a blessing.
It is. Yeah, I mean, they got calls from every surrounding county, and they couldn't talk to somebody, so she would talk to them. All of them out there done a fantastic job. So
So just one more thing. I also want to thank the fiscal
Agriculture Development Board for the DARS, which is the Dead Animal Removal Program that they have. This is an additional grant that we got. We got one last year, we got it again this year, so motion to accept.
Second.
Mr. Bishop? Yes. Mr. Fogel?
Yes.
Ms. Blackman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirkland?
Yes.
Mr. Quill?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Anybody else have anything?
Yeah, I do. Well, this is running into this year. I'd like to give, project money, for, they're still saying they're having the Loretta Christmas parade. Okay, I know it's still July, ain't July yet, but Christmas is around the corner. $1,200 for that one. And, they, fire department. Crusade, and do $500 for that one. The crowd switch $500, which is money that comes to good bad. I was credit last year, already paying up 84. And, then, it's, the city of Loretta said they didn't get out of the fireworks at Jerusalem. Y'all buy some equipment, something about their storage box, they was using, they can't get it more, so $800 for that. And what's this about the youth election thing? What's, we have new things coming up, I mean, I know
We
we didn't.
can't, there's not a 501c3 for the group, so we had to scratch it off.
So, Trevor gravel switch, and got the red. Then, much of them overdrawn over here.
Fiscal.
I'd like to, do $1,000 to Laura and daycare or child care center, for help them reopen. I think we'll get started back up. Does
How much was the trail switch?
Rail switch $5. Should be a total of $6,000. Kevin say I'm overdrawn.
I'll make a motion to allow Fogel to spend his money for those products designated that way.
Second.
Get it all.
Mr. Quill? Yes. Mr. Bishop? Yes. Ms. Blackman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirkland?
Yes.
Mr. Fogel?
Yes.
Unanimous.
I'd also like to spend some of my money for project money, 500 to the Bradford Fire Department for protecting children, and 500 to the Marion County Fire Department, which is located in Lebanon, location.
Motion to allow Larry, to spend his money project.
Second.
Bishop? Yes. Ms. Blackman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirkland?
Yes.
Mr. Fogel?
Yes.
Mr. Quill?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Also want to spend some project money as well. We're roughly guessing around 1,300 finished loans for revenue for the year. We'll allocate 1,300 for that. That also will crusade for Railway Fire Department, and 500 to the Marion County Fire Department.
Motion to allow the commission to spend the money.
Second.
Mr. Quill?
Yes.
Mr. Fogel?
Yes.
Ms. Blackman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirkland?
motion to adjourn?
Ms. Blackman, Mr. Poe,
Yes.